Hi, I'm Adam Summer. You're listening to the Yerushalmi Talk podcast with the support of the Yeshivat Devar Yerushalayim in Har Nof, Jerusalem. This is Berechot, chapter 4, Halacha 4. This is the first part of the shiur. We're going to be getting into the prayers of Shemona Esrei and what happens when it's a dangerous place or requires a short time. The Mishnah states regarding the Shemona Esrei, Rabbi Eliezer says, if one makes his prayer a fixed recitation, his prayer is not a genuine prayer. So this phrase is going to be explained in this Gemara. And what does that mean that his prayer is not going to be a genuine prayer? It's going to be that, yes, he fulfilled his obligation, but his prayer is not going to be looked upon favorably. What's going to be coming up is that you're supposed to be standing in front of Hashem, your maker, and you're supposed to personalize your prayers to your needs for the day, for the moment. You're supposed to connect to Hashem. As you're standing here, you are a different person than the version of you that's going to be standing in front of Hashem 18 hours from now. So come up with a different prayer. In other words, you're going to be using the context and the prayer structure of the Shemona Esrei, which is established by the men of the Great Assembly, and most of them were prophets, and you're going to be adding into the portion for personal prayer something about your request for you to connect more with your heart and your soul and your mind and your spirit to Kodesh Baruch Hu, because you are asking for divine mercy. And we don't want to be mitzvah robots. We want to be soulful. We don't want this to be something of a chore. We want this not to be empty, meaningless ritual. This is supposed to be the deepest of the deep. And this is supposed to be something that is an opportunity for you to try to change the structure of the universe and to try to connect with the Ein Sof, the infinite one, to try to connect, because Hashem is continuously creating and you want the outcomes to be different for you. You want Hashem to restructure the universe in ways to help you and to support you, and you want to call out and connect to Hashem. So the Gemara continues, the Mishnah continues, and it's going to talk about the law of someone who finds himself in a dangerous place where it is going to be difficult to concentrate on the prayer. Rabbi Yeshua says one who travels in a dangerous place prays a short prayer and says, "Save Hashem, your nation, the remnant of Israel." At every Parsha Ha'ibor, may their needs be before you. And it says, "Blessed are you, Hashem, who hears prayer and supplication." Now, the word about supplication here in the Mishnah is not going to be in the Bavli version, and it's not going to be in the standard edition of the Mishnayot. A lot of times, the Mishnahs in the Yerushalmi are going to be a little bit different from the standard Mishnah or the Bavli Mishnah. So this is going to be one of those cases where the part where it says who hears prayer and supplication, the and supplication part is going to be something that is going to be a Yerushalmi special here. And the Gemara is going to start, and Rabbi Eliezer says if one makes his prayer a fixed recitation, his prayer is not a genuine supplication. And the Gemara is going to explain how one avoids making his prayer a fixed recitation. Rabbi Abahu says in the name of Rabbi Elazar, as long as one does not recite his prayer as one who reads from a letter. In other words, don't do the Shemona Esrei in a dry and unemotional way. This prayer is not supposed to be a fixed thing like you're reading a letter. You're supposed to take the text of the Shemona Esrei and you're supposed to recite all of that. But in the part that's reserved for you, for your personal appeal, and for you to pray for the health of others or yourself, and to pray for your needs, or to make tshuva, those parts you're supposed to put in with a soulful plea, and you're supposed to connect from your heart. And they're condemning any sort of robotic attempt to do the Shmona Esrei. They don't want mitzvah robots. They want soulful Jews who are connected with all of their heart and their mind and their spirit and soul to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Infinite One. And this appeal for God, who is continuously creating the universe, to alter the universe in a way to fit you, to fit in with your needs. And this is the call to do that. This is the prayer for divine mercy. And it's also the opportunity to make tshuva, because there's a portion there on the prayer of God who hears prayer, for you to make tshuva and to fix yourself and to improve yourself. And when you study the laws of tshuva, you'll see that it's turning you into a new person. Every breath you take gives you a new chance to be a new person. And when you are a new person, you have new opportunity to connect to a higher level, to the Infinite One. Now, there's another view on Rabbi Eliezer's ruling. Rabbi Acha says, in the name of Rabbi Yosei, one must innovate something, in other words, a new request in his prayer every day. And therefore, if someone's prayer remains unchanged from day to day, it's regarded as a fixed recitation. In other words, you have to have your heart and your emotion in this, and you have to personalize it. And the Gemara now is going to talk about an individual who was constantly innovating new prayers in the Shmona Esrei prayer structure itself. And it said Achitophel would pray 3 new prayers each day. And the Gemara is going to cite one who disputes Rabbi Acha's explanation. Rabbi Zera says, whenever I would do this and innovate in the prayer, I would make mistakes. Clearly, it is not a correct understanding of the Mishnah. Rather, in explaining the Mishnah, you have only that which Rabbi Abahu says in the name of Rabbi Eliezer, or Elazar, to wit, as long as one does not recite his prayer as one who reads a letter. And the Gemara now is going to mention others who innovated in prayer. Rabbi Elazar would pray a new prayer each day, and Rabbi Abahu would recite a new blessing each day. In other words, Rabbi Abahu would improvise new wordings in the portions of the Shmona Esrei that you're allowed to put into your own words. And the Gemara is now going to discuss other additions in the Shmona Esrei prayer. And Rabbi Yosei the Sidonian says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, before one's prayer, one recites the verse, Hashem, open my lips and let my mouth declare your praise. And this is going to be from Tehillim 51:17. And then it continues and it says, after one's prayer, one recites the verse, may the expressions of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, Hashem, my rock and my redeemer. And this is going to be Tehillim 19:15. And this is going to be the verse at the end of the Shmona Esrei. That's going to correspond to the 18 blessings at the end of the Shmona Esrei. And there's going to be a different practice. Rabbi Yudan would recite both of these verses before he prayed. The Gemara cites a dispute between the Amirim regarding one who begins reciting a prayer in which he is not obligated. So this now is getting into more complicated issues. So the Gemara says that if one was standing and praying and he remembered that he had already prayed, Rav said he cuts off his prayer at once. Why? Because he doesn't want to do bracha lavatala. He doesn't want to, because every time, in the Shemona Esrei, you're saying, blessed are you Hashem. This is going to be a prayer. And effectively, you want to limit, says Rav, the amounts of times of sort of doing a misplaced bracha, because he's already done it. Shmuel says he does not cut off his prayer in the middle, but continues to the end of the prayer. And actually, the Gemara is going to support Shmuel's view on this. Now, I want to point out what Shmuel is thinking about this, and I want to point out what Rav is thinking about this. So, Haredim says that, about Rav's view, that if he's in the middle and he realizes it, that he stops. Okay, that's the view of Rav. Rav is holding that since this person began the recitation on an obligatory basis, he cannot change it in the middle of a donative prayer, and he must interrupt the prayer at once, for once a person has fulfilled the Shemona Esrei obligation, he's not permitted to repeat the prayer on an obligatory basis. In other words, he's already come into it saying that it's an obligation. He started doing it, and now he realizes he forgot. So what do? So Rav's view is that you stop because you're trying to do an obligatory thing, and you've already done an obligatory thing, and therefore it's a problem in the prayer, says Rav. That's the idea. Why would that be? I want to point out that we have the daily Tamid offerings. I mean, just like you're not supposed to repeat obligatory prayers, you're also not supposed to repeat, because it's paralleling the daily Tamid. You're not supposed to repeat the daily obligatory offerings in the temple as well. In other words, you can't bring 2 morning Tamids on the same day. So just like you can't bring 2 morning Tamids on the same day, you can't do 2 Shemona Esrei prayers on the same day in terms of being obligated. So that's going to be the idea. Shmuel has a different idea about this. Haredim says that Shmuel holds that although the person began his prayer on the obligatory basis, he can transform it into a donative prayer while he is still praying. And once he realizes his mistake, the person makes a conscious decision to continue the prayer as a donative prayer, and he may do so. In other words, that he's transforming it from an obligation into an extra prayer. Now, the Bavli parallel in Bavli 21b Berechot, Shmuel is saying that in the case, the person must immediately cease praying, even in the middle of the blessing. And obviously, this would contradict this Gemara's version of Shmuel's ruling. And the Mara Fulda is going to try to reconcile the 2 versions of the ruling, and basically stating that when Bavli and Yerushalmi cite the same inquiry, the attributions are all often reversed. In other words, that's how he recites it. In other words, in the Yerushalmi version, Rav's opinion is going to be Shmuel's opinion, and over here, Shmuel's opinion is going to be Rav's opinion. It's switched between the 2 opinions. Now, basically, what is it going to be? It's going to be the opinion that we're talking about with Shmuel here in the Yerushalmi, which is that you turn it into a donative prayer, and you consciously turn it into a donative prayer, and you continue. In other words, you change your opinion, you change your intention, and you don't halt your prayer, but you continue to the end. That's going to be the idea. Now, I want to point out something from Rabbi Yochanan's version and his view. Rabbi Yochanan holds that even if a person is sure that he already prayed, it is praiseworthy for him to do it again, for prayer is primarily a request for kindness from Kodesh Baruch Hu, and as such is something that man requires constantly, because we may pray at any time. This person, upon realizing his mistake, need only to make a conscious decision to continue the prayer as a donative prayer and then continue. And the Gemara now is going to draw an inference from Rabbi Yochanan's ruling. Rabbi Zera inquired for Rabbi Yosei, do we not see from the words that Rabbi Yochanan said that if one is uncertain as whether he prayed or whether he did not pray, he should not pray? And Rabbi Yosei doesn't answer him. And effectively, says the Rosh Cirilio, that Rabbi Zera asked Rabbi Yosei whether the inference was correct. And Rabbi Yosei was unsure, and he did not give a reply. Now, I want to point out something from the Haredim on this. Haredim is pointing out that Rabbi Yosei stated this ruling in the case of a person who definitely fulfilled his obligation to pray. And in that case, he allows that person to recite a second prayer on a donative basis. Now, Rabbi Zera is inferring that where it is uncertain whether the person prayed, Rabbi Yochanan does not permit him to pray. And the reasoning would be as follows, right? Just let's walk this through. Since the person might still be obligated to pray, we fear that he might recite the second prayer with the intent of obligation. And if he has already prayed, such a recitation would violate the prohibition of not to add. And to prevent this from occurring, Rabbi Yochanan forbids that person to recite a second prayer. So that's going to be a deeper point about this. And the Gemara cites a source that confirms Rabbi Zera's inference. Rabbi Abahu came and said, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, if one is uncertain as to whether he already prayed or whether he did not pray, he should not pray. Now, Rabbi Abahu is quoting Rabbi Yochanan as saying that if a person is uncertain whether he prayed, he should not pray. And this, by the way, confirms Rabbi Zera's opinion and understanding of Rabbi Yochanan's ruling. So everybody is trying to be careful not to do this, trigger this problem of not to add. And we always want to be doing something as a donative prayer. And you see in here, intention comes into play. And the idea is to change it into a thing where you've changed your intention. But if you're unsure, that's going to be where the issue lies, whether he prayed or didn't pray, what's going to be the law? And that's going to be the question, and we're going to get into that tomorrow. So have a great day.